Hi, Dr. Regan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now. As we age, I can tell you what I've been told over the years is, oh, that's just what getting old feels like. And so, it can, if that's implanted over and over again, that mindset comes in, then you just start to live with the discomfort and just think, well, this is as good as it gets. And that is not true.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in.
Welcome to Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I am your host, Regan Robertson, here with my trusty, faithful co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson. Chad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening on your drive to work or in the shower or whatever you're doing, weird or not weird,
How many people do you think have wireless shower speakers?
I do.
Good to know. Fun fact.
Yep. And to make it even more fun, I put on Pandora and I listen to Hawaiian music in the shower. It just relaxes me like no other. So there's a nugget right there.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that. I am going to steal that.
Yes.
Okay, let me head over to the Amazon and I'm going to get a wireless speaker and put on Hawaiian music. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Our topic today, people listening, listeners, doctors, team members, business owners, it's about putting the focus on you today. So we know in order for us to be the best leaders within an organization, it really starts with ourselves. So like the proverbial, the airline illustration, when the oxygen masks drop down, you put yours on first.
Yep.
In order to be your best. Today is all about health journeys. And Chad is my esteemed guest and co-host today because you have so kindly volunteered to be willing to share your health journey.
Yeah. So, I'll just start with a couple ideas and then we'll just go from there. Does that sound okay?
It does. I think it's good to paint for everybody. We are both in our 40s.
Yep.
Early 40s, asterisk, early 40s.
Hey, I am technically a 70s child. So born in 79 and in Jimmy Carter for 2 months before he was out of office. So
it's the best year to be born. What can we say about it? It's the best year. But things changed. Things changed when we both hit 40.
Yeah, I just started noticing. So, I've been consistently working out since dental school finished. I wasn't consistently working out in dental school. I did occasionally, but so after dental school, I started working out more consistently, and I was playing basketball, sprained my ankle. A buddy asked if I wanted to, I was hitting the pool and he said, hey, let me join you and we can swim. And you know what? We could swim and we could run and we could go cycling. We could do a triathlon. And I was just like, slow down. No, not interested. But I'll tell you what, you can come swim with me while I'm healing my ankle. And then I'm going to get back to basketball. And, if I help you do a triathlon, I'll at least work out with you. And so it was mentally kind of like, fair enough, like I'll go in with you, but I don't. And another like little thing in dental school, I'd find if I lifted before school or anything like that, my hand would kind of be jittery.
Really?
The muscle, like the fine motor control was off. And so I didn't really like lifting, but come to find out you can get around that. And I think also the more confident that I got in my fine motor skills, it wasn't as big a deal. But like in dental school, when you're nervous about stuff and you've already worked out for the day, you could be hosed. So but I've been working out for, that was 27 or 28 when I started doing triathlon. So it's been 15 years since I've, started doing those workouts. And I just consistently, I swim more in the winter months, and I cycle more in the summer months, and then I lift year round. But it's kind of casual. I don't, go out, hardcore. And then I hate running, but I get running in, and I've become better at running. One of the things, is just even, my knee pain, and trying to get that addressed, and then eventually figuring out, how to address that through my running form. And so that was kind of
that's going to be hard on your knees. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I actually found, like, I can now, I don't, okay. So, I mean, I'm just going to get to it, because it's going to sound like, some of this is going to sound like I'm bragging, and it's like, oh, I can do triathlons. I can dunk a basketball.
I think I'm interjecting here, because what I think you're painting right now for all of our listeners is you've had a pretty physically fit existence. You were an active child. You were disciplined.
Yes.
Going through all the way up into your college years and beyond. So what I like about this story, Chad, is that you're not immune to having a health journey, and you're not immune to trying to optimize your own performance, your own health along the way.
Yeah, because I mean, I wish I could run as fast as I used to. The fact is, I'm still running because it's good for my heart, and I had to figure out how to run differently. So for those runners out there, I was a heel striker, and I figured out how to midsole, midfoot strike. And if you Google, no, not Google, YouTube, midfoot strike, you can see how that's different for your joint. It gives your calf muscle more of the shock absorbing, so that way your knees and hips aren't taking it. So check into that. And then I started, my knees started getting better. I started doing squat machine, because I was, I had even done CrossFit for a little while, and my knees would kind of collapse when I would do squats. I'm serious. Even air squats, my knees would kind of collapse a couple inches in, and it would cause like this tendonitis pain in my knee. But now I started doing squats because my knee wasn't hurting. My knee wasn't hurting when I was cycling. My knee wasn't hurting when I'd push off the wall in the pool. And so I was able to start going back at it. I swear, 10 years ago, my knees hurt more than they do now. And I can even now, having done squats, I found that improved my explosive strength for doing, like when I coach my girls in basketball, and Gabe and stuff like that when he was a little bit younger for Little League, and I can go up and dunk it now. I mean, I thought that was over. And
what's really exciting to me about this is there's a possibility of improvement
to regenerate.
I think, yes, the regeneration is even bigger. That's the term I think we highlight and circle, because as we age, I can tell you what I've been told over the years is, oh, that's just what getting old feels like. And so, it can, if that's implanted over and over again, that mindset comes in, then you just start to live with the discomfort and just think, well, this is as good as it gets. And that is not true. I mean, correct. Sometimes perhaps, but not all the time.
Not all the time. Like, in other words, you don't have to take no for an answer necessarily. Now, if you've gone to do 10 consults, the 11th consult might not tell you any different, but it's worth exploring a second opinion at times for that purpose. So
you are intuitively your own advocate.
Yeah. And again, I wasn't having big health problems. But one of my problems was I started doing, when I burned myself, it was at this point 6 years ago, I started upping my protein because the dietitian came into the hospital when I was in the hospital all burned up. I had a gasoline fire incident. That's
going to say, for listeners, share what that was. What happened? Yep.
So I was doing a burn pile, and I was using gasoline. I know you're not supposed to, but listen, I just was. And right now
you really know.
Now I really know. And the gas can, when I was dumping the gas, it had caught a smoldering spot from a few hours prior, and caught on fire. Like I was dumping the gas on the fire. This thing was probably about eight parking spaces big. So you can kind of picture how big this burn pile was. And so I was lit up. And within a couple seconds, I think I was out. It's tough mentally to remember exactly how long I was in the fire, because I think my mind won't let me go there. But I try and remember, like you try and replay it, and it's like, how long was I actually in the fire? I want to say like maybe a second or two. It really wasn't all that long. You know, I think 5 seconds and I might have been toast. Um,
Wow.
so I then was taking protein because the dietitian told me to, and I was realizing how full I was. And I was like, okay, this is fascinating. Like protein keeps you full. I was doing 220 grams, something like that, a day.
That's
And
a good amount of
it's a
protein.
ton of protein. Most people do 70 to 90 grams a day. So this was a
Mhm.
lot, but it was to regenerate my collagen and my skin while I was trying to grow back, 30% of my surface area still on my body. Well, then I fast forward, I did this DNA testing as a salivary DNA test through this company called ID Life. I have nothing to do with them. Productive Dentist Academy doesn't have anything to do with them. I'm just simply sharing that this company, ID as in identification, ID Life, has a vitamin pack that they'll sell you that, there's a morning pack and an evening pack, and you can,
Oh,
and they customize it according to your DNA profile from your salivary test. Well, something
cool.
interesting, this salivary test also told
Did
me.
they have, are they like powdered type in the vegetable capsules, or are they hard vitamins? Because the hard vitamins don't often break down in enough time, I've read.
These are in encapsulated stuff. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. Yes, they're high quality stuff. And what I found out from this DNA test that I was one of the most fascinating things was there are 2 genes that they measure for people like satiation, for their hunger and
Mhm.
whatnot. I'm missing both of those genes that tell you when you're full. So I overeat. And so what's cool then is that I started toying around with intermittent fasting, trying to restrict my caloric intake, because when I do eat, I eat a ton.
Mhm.
And it takes so I thought if I
I
only,
have seen you have 3
yes, oh,
full-size
I can eat
desserts
like a
at one
champ,
time.
like a champ.
But I mean, I figured you'd get up and cycle 50 miles in the morning. So it
Exactly.
would like
So
you burn
when
it
I'm
off.
doing high cardio, then it's fine. But like you can't do high cardio all the time. And at age 30, you can, but at age 40 or maybe 50,
Yeah.
or at some point, 60, I don't care, at 80, at some point, you can't do the workout that you're doing when you're 30,
Yeah.
the same cardio, like every day, all day. I used to do, 6 cardios a week, and and sometimes twice a days,
Mhm.
and I just, your joints can't quite handle that all the time, every, week in, week
Sure.
out, month in, year out. So I started doing the intermittent fasting, and that was cool because mentally, uh learning to manage your hunger was eye-opening for me. That when you, in essence, I say, like, when I'm hungry, I tell my hunger to kiss off. It's just like,
Mhm.
listen, just tough luck. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean you have to eat. And just because, like, you could embrace hunger. And that's a weird American thought. It's just like, just be like, when we're hungry, we go, I'm hungry, so I have to eat. And it's just like, what if you actually, like, chilled out and drank some water, and, you know, and so how it started was I would prolong breakfast and have a protein shake in the morning. Then I'd be busy. And then I finally started, like, I would get to 11 a.m. and I'd be like, man, I haven't even had my protein shake for the breakfast. And I'd be like, can I not make it 1 more hour? I wonder if I can make it 1 more hour. So I
You
gamified it.
gamify it, of
I gamified it.
course.
Yep.
That is
And
very you.
can I make it until noon? Then I started going, well, I made it until noon. This is mind blowing to me. I mean, other
Mhm.
people are like, dude, I've been doing this for years, but I go, what if I could make it to mid afternoon? I wonder if I could make my eating window like 2 o'clock, then three
Well, I
o'clock.
had the old cliche thing when I'm hungry. So I've done intermittent fasting too. And if you're getting the right types of food in your body, you really
Yes.
shouldn't be hungry. You should be fine. So if I was hungry, I would do the old cliche. Are you hungry or are you bored?
Yes. And I would, mine's a little bit more severe, but I'm like, am I going to die? Like, am I so calorie restricted that I'm going to die? I still have fat on me. I'm going to be fine. Most of the time I ride between, like 15-ish% body fat.
Yeah,
That's
yours
not
is
emaciated,
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's healthy. Like 15% is good, but it's also not like if you were 4% or something like that, you can't stay at 5% very long. I've not heard of that. I'm not a pro, but I know,
Right.
people bodybuilders get down to 5%,
But not
for the competition.
sustainably.
They're not
And that
sustained.
and when I
No.
think of you, I think of a professional athlete, and that's how I've seen you treat your body and your mental state the whole time that I've known you. It's
Well,
more about
thanks.
refinement
Yeah.
than it is about wide swings. And we know a bodybuilder or a UFC fighter, when they're training, it's for a specific outcome for a short amount of time. So when they're not training, they go back into what they see as a healthy range of fat percentage, right?
Right.
So they know it's not something that's sustainable. So staying at 5% body fat, my assumption is, I'm not a medical doctor, that's probably not super healthy, sustained long-term, but
You're
they
right.
can cut to get to that point. So it's going back and forth. And that's, so there's that's the type of health that you see on the outside. And then there's the type of health that you might not feel like anything is wrong, but something is wrong. I didn't know, for example, I had inflammation going on and
Yes.
I could feel it in certain symptoms, but I didn't know, you don't know what damage is being done to your organs until it gets to a point where it's showing up. And then by then it might be too late.
So listeners, next week, we're going to tap into, like, the next episode is going to be Regan talking more about what that mattered to her, especially, but
yeah,
inflammatory stuff on that topic. So, I was starting to have some high blood pressure and I kind of denied it. My hygienist, Shonda, would say, here, let's measure your blood pressure. You've got high blood pressure. And I'd be like, so what? Like,
really? See, if the moment mine started to like creep up, I was freaking out. I was like, this is a bad sign. This is a bad sign. And it wasn't even really high, but for me, it was.
I thought there's no, like, my pulse is normally like, sleeping, I can get mine in the 30s, work, like working and stuff like that, it's probably 60, resting, it's probably 50.
Okay.
And so, like, I have this really low pulse, and then I'm thinking my cardiovascular health is top notch. And again, it's a little cocky, but that's what I was thinking is, so yeah, maybe my blood pressure is occasionally high at work. I'm a type A and I'm working. So, like, it's called your resting blood pressure, right? I'm just like, I'm not resting.
Your resting blood pressure face.
Right. Yeah. Good. So we spent a couple of years going back and forth. Your blood pressure's high. And I'd be like, oh, whatever. And it was almost this joke. And so I started getting this bloody nose. And it was actually around when COVID was happening. And I don't know if so here was my thought, my diagnostics, going around. I'm like, okay, is it possible that I've got hypertension and that's what's causing it? Is it that my nose is dry or something like that? But it's always my left nostril. And it's just the weirdest thing is happening when I'm sleeping. Wait a second. Why is it always happening when I'm sleeping? Is it because I have sleep apnea and I'm momentarily having this spiked blood pressure because my pulse is going through the roof because of an apneic moment? Okay, so maybe I have sleep apnea. The blood pressure stuff, I'm reluctant to want to address it, but I finally decide, okay, so the Bale-Donine method, PDA has talked a lot about Bale-Donine method. And I thought, why don't I go get checked out? I actually, because I go to the PDA workshops, I thought to myself, I'm going to go down. I need to find a clinician to do that could do concierge doctor treatment for me. And so I found Dr. Gina Pritchard. She's a nurse practitioner. You can find her on LinkedIn under the Prevent Clinic, Dr. Gina Pritchard in Frisco, Texas. And I thought, well, there's no one in Iowa that does it that I know of because I looked on the website. And so I was like, should I go to Chicago? No, I'm going to Dallas. Why don't I just go down there? Like when I'm down there, I'll just get it done. And I told her, like, I've got these, bloody noses and I'm starting to wonder if I should get my, health checked out. And she started dialing in my vitamins. She eventually, because the vitamins weren't homeopathically doing it, I started about 6 months ago on a blood pressure med, and boy, that makes you feel old, right? Here's the good news for anyone listening to it. I'm just trying to encourage you. I don't actually feel any different taking the blood pressure med. It might as well just be another vitamin that I take. I wouldn't know. And now I'm on a ton of vitamins. Before age 40, I took 0 vitamins, and I would just take my protein drinks with a vegetable powder. And because I'm not the best at eating vegetables and stuff like that, so I thought I'll supplement it with the vegetable powder. And so it was pretty naturalistic ish. And so I started taking the blood pressure med. I started taking a baby aspirin upon recommendation of Dr. Gina Pritchard. And then we're taking blood work every 3 to 6 months. And otherwise though, for a healthy guy, doctors don't really care to see me because they're like, you're healthy. Why are you even here? I've honestly literally had doctors and nurses when I've gone into a clinic say, what are you here for? You know, like, and because they're just like, you're healthy compared to what they're used to. Yes. And again, Regan has a discussion about that because she, you know, so what's cool though is, you know, I started my blood pressure meds. I don't feel any different. That's encouragement to people that are like, is it going to make me feel like exhausted or, you know, weak or weird? Then I also noticed that from the blood work, Dr. Gina said, you know, your testosterone isn't 0, but like it's 300, 250. I don't remember. It was somewhere around 300, maybe 315. And 300 is kind of borderline where it's low T. But a lot of men are around 300 or 400. I mean, what's interesting is I've heard that historically testosterone levels were like 800,000 for men 100 years ago. And these days, it's almost,
it's just like the nutritional density of food has also decreased quite dramatically.
Exactly.
Which is interesting. Can I back up to Bale Doneen method?
Do it.
So Dr. Brad Bale and Amy Doneen have a book. I believe it's called Beat the Heart Attack Gene.
Exactly.
And I put this here because you didn't go see Dr. Gina Pritchard to get, you know, regular healthcare, which you mentioned. It's quite exhaustive in the amount of risk factors that they look at.
Yep.
And I don't know how many tests they did run you through, but I'm assuming it was quite a few, or was it just one? Did they just take your blood? Like, how did that work?
Because I was so healthy, they most of it is blood work and then just dialing that in. Even if some friends know that I drink a gallon of water a day. Why? Because I know that when I drink the gallon of water a day, it's keeping my creatinine kinase levels down. And it's part of the complete blood series, you know, panel that we do that they can see if I'm clearing the metabolites of everything, you know, well. So that way I'm healthy. Cause I don't really actually like drinking a gallon of water a day.
Who really enjoys
Some people do.
Of water?
I hear people say, I just love water. I drink water all day long. It's the best. And I just go, I mean, good for you. I mean,
I put sufficiency in mine, which is a powdery vitamin that doesn't have all the sugar in it, like Emergency, which is just not, I wouldn't recommend.
What's it called?
Sufficient C.
Okay.
And so that gives it a little bit of flavor.
Yes.
That makes it, because I don't do the drops. I don't do anything artificial at all. I don't, you know, I got to keep it pretty
Believe
straight.
it or not, this water right here that I'm showing you, it's distilled.
It's even better.
Distilled water. And people are like, isn't that gross? I'm like, I don't know. No.
You could neti lodi pot that with that water. You could clean your nose out.
So when we did one of the work 6 months ago, I held my hands above my heart and they did a CT scan of my heart, like and I don't know what they call it. It is a functional CT that they were checking for the thickness of my endothelium. And because that's where inflammatory stuff happens. And again, this is in the Bale Doneen book. And she said, man, your heart is super healthy. And that made me feel good, at peace of mind to know that, you know, that my endothelial inflammation is actually really low.
Yeah.
Someone could say, oh, look at your cholesterol. You've got, you know, inflammation for sure. And it's just like, no, actually, if you look at the endothelium, it shows that I'm just fine. So that's cool. So, you know, dialing in that in, and I, you know, like, so most of my work personally is just blood work. And
did you get your testosterone brought up? Did you end up?
Yes. So
where's like optimal? Where do you want
1,000?
to be? Oh, you want to be at 1,000. And so you're around 300. So they got you back up to 1,000.
Yes.
Did that feel different?
No, believe it or not. No, I've got a little bulkier in the last year, so I can tell that. And, I started taking, so what's cool is she also, like, because she costs being a concierge doctor, I have an annual fee, but then, what's cool is then she saved me money by doing this testosterone therapy, as opposed to doing it, you know, just at a local clinic that, you know, can charge you $300 per pop or something, like, you know, $500 per pop or something like that. But mine was medically necessary. It was $15 copay on my insurance for like a half year supply.
That's
and
great.
And so what's cool is, like, all of a sudden I felt like my workout endurance was improving because again, I'm doping. I mean, like where people that are
What's
doing,
doping? Doing testosterone, adding
yeah,
testosterone.
I
If you
mean,
do estrogen replacement, is that considered doping also?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
but I'm not again, positive about that but I know women sometimes do testosterone therapy.
Right. Yes, they
That,
do.
and that would be an abnormal amount of testosterone because your body isn't used to that, right? So that would be in essence doping. But for a man to be able to have 1,000, whatever it is, milligrams per deciliter, who knows? But what the measurement 1,000, for that measurement, it's actually just getting it back to normal what it should be. I was doing they've got these 0.5 cc bottles, and I was doing that half twice a week, half of it twice a week. So I would use the 0.5, and it was at 1,200. And she said, well, that's a little high, because people that are actually injecting for competition stuff,
Right.
they're going 3,000, 5,000. They're doing ridiculous high numbers. Mine is just getting it back to optimal. So when I call it doping, I'm halfway joking about it. It's not, but again, I'm not doing it in an Olympic competition, right? I'm competing against myself. This is just for self healthiness. And so when I do the testosterone replacement, we cut it back in half. So I'm just actually doing 0.25 cc's a week. And which then is even just half of that, twice a week. And then by dialing it in half, it was still at 1,000. And so she's like, good, there's a good number. And we toyed around with getting it titrated. And how would we know? Blood work.
So if your blood work is and your weight, all the indicators are indicating health.
Yes.
What spurred the decision to include the semaglutide peptides? Is that how I say it right?
Yeah. Yes. So that was it. I wanted actually to do the testosterone replacement therapy because for weight loss, because I was just like, I told Dr. Gina, I said, I'm still working out the same and I've gained 20 pounds.
Right.
And I said, it's kind of frustrating because like I was getting ready for a half Ironman and I was dialing in and I was at 225 and I wanted to get down to 220. And the month before the event, I started going up to 230, 235. And I was like, this is really weird that I was going up in weight when I was trying to like then lose the last 5 pounds. I all of a sudden went up 10 pounds. That was frustrating. And
I'd be so thrilled with that to just gain 10 pounds when I'm trying to go the opposite direction.
Right. Yeah. Women, you can understand. So then I told her, I said, then I start doing the testosterone. I went up to 250. And I gained muscle mass.
And you're 6'4" or 5.
Yeah.
6'4". Yeah. Just to put it in perspective.
Sure.
You're not rocking the 5'3" over here.
Correct. So I did the testosterone replacement and I still wasn't like, I was gaining muscle, but at the same time, I was like, man, I feel like I'm not losing the fat percentage. I'm not losing the weight. This helped me gain muscle, but it's not really helping me lose fat, even though hypothetically it should. The more muscle you have, the more energy you're burning throughout the day, especially if you're working it out. So then I asked her, I was just like, I heard you mention some peptides that you can take. She mentioned semaglutide. And so come to find out that this is not simply just a peptide, but it's quite a popular Hollywood drug for losing weight called Ozempic.
Yes.
But I'm just taking a small dose of it and once a week. Then I started shedding weight. Oh man. I mean, so now I'm actually getting the results that I wanted. I joked around with the nurse and with Dr. Gina. I said, I was sending them a text. I said, I want beach body, give me calendar beach body, and she was just like, give it. Is
this on video, listeners? Can you see my eye roll right here? I know. You're always in shape. You've been in shape the entire decade I've known you, but I understand though.
I want to push better.
You want to be the best that you can be and you want to work with us. So everyone's different on that journey. It's also really frustrating when you're trying to lose weight and nothing is working. And then it feels almost like magic to make one slight adjustment. And all of a sudden, I mean, at least for me, that's how it was for me. I made one adjustment and then the dominoes started going down. And I'm like, oh, after years of not seeing movement. So I I like that. One adjustment has helped you get back to where you want to be. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was monitoring your sleep through the Aura Ring. So when we
Yes.
were at the workshop, Chad had on wedding ring and then this other black ring. Yeah, I hadn't seen it before. So I said, what is that?
Yeah.
And
I'm
Michelle
showing
Hudson,
it off on video if you see it on video.
yes.
Yeah.
Michelle Hudson is our, she does hygiene calibration. She owns, I can't remember, can't remember what her coaching thing is, but anyway, she's a great PDA alumni, was Dr. Bruce Baird's hygienist. She mentioned doing the Aura Ring also. So I'm really curious about this. And you showed me. So tell listeners about that and how you've been using it.
Yeah, so there's an app on your phone, and the Aura Ring, what Dr. Gina was trying to do was, and I'm just showing here, the app for the video people.
Yes,
and
OURA.
Correct. Yep. And the goal of it was, I did a sleep test and I have mild obstructive sleep apnea. I started wearing an oral appliance. I had that made through my CEREC. I emailed it to through the portal to Great Lakes and had an appliance made. And that's actually something that I noticed was at not the first week, but eventually I found that I was like, I'm sleeping better. I'm waking up actually in the same position. That's kind of weird that I'm actually waking up in the same, like I'm not slapping around all night. And Sarah, my wife, appreciates that I'm not snoring.
I'm sure.
Right. And so that actually was a huge improvement to my health after dialing in the testosterone, after using temporarily, currently the semaglutide and having an oral appliance. This just helps me monitor how it actually gives me a sleep score every night, and I can look at that stuff. And
do you gamify that too?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I actually look at the week and I just go, oh, of course, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I got better sleep than Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and stuff like that. So I look at stuff like that. But my blood work was the key. And I think if I have a take-home message, I gave you guys some tangible stuff that I've been doing, but my goal isn't to say, I've done intermittent fasting, so you should too. I've done these things, so you should too. Like, maybe you should check it out. And so I gave you ideas, but the take-home message actually is for myself. And it carries on to you as the listener. Blood work can be the key to it. And then I think that might correlate to next week's discussion, how Regan found that that her blood work was improved. But going through these journeys and asking yourself, okay, not only am I minimally healthy, but how could I maximize my health in the next year?
Thank you.
Yeah.
My takeaway from this is you really do get off of autopilot.
Yeah.
Get off of autopilot, be your own advocate. And it's regardless of where you're at. And I think it's kind of like the difference between going from good to great. Yep. So you can be in an area of total complacency because you are fine. So according to American standards, you're fine. So why not just keep doing it? And what I don't like about that model is that there's some things that can be lurking underneath. And we know that fear comes from the unknown. So you were very inspiring to me, Chad, because you said, I'm going to, rip that Band-Aid off and I'm going to make the unknown known. So, and I think blood work in specific panels is a key to that. Yeah. So there are different panels that you can take that will tell you different things. And you went deep. So getting in with Gina Pritchard and saying, I want to explore all of it helped you so that you can stay in absolute optimal health, which is your vision as a human being, is how to empower others into optimal health.
I'm healthier than I was 5 years ago. Let's just say that. And the cool thing is I also don't have a bloody nose anymore. So yay for that. We've basically dialed in my blood pressure, dialed in my blood work. And by most other people's measures, they'd be like, Chad doesn't need to go to the doctor. You know what I told myself? I don't need to go to the doctor. And for decades, I bet I went twice, for an earache from swimming and stuff like that. But I was like, you know what? I'm 40. And Victoria would be proud of this. You also
that's Victoria Peterson, our CEO of Productive Dentist Academy.
Exactly. You also are your biggest risk to your office. So doctor, you need to make sure your health is dialed in. So that way you're lowering your risk factors of being a detriment to your practice if you weren't at your peak game. So with that, be encouraged. Tell us about your health journey. Regan at productivedentist.com and chad@productivedentist.com. You can write below on Facebook if there's if you're getting the link from this, we'll have a comment section, or you could private message us. We'd love to hear how we could help encourage you with your health journey too.
Thank you, Chad. And thank you, listeners. See you next week.
Woohoo!
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.